Part 3. Procedure of divorce. Whether a husband divorces his wife because of his own decision or does so at the demand of his wife, in both cases, the procedure of divorce prescribed by the Shariah is as follows. 1. Divorce should be given keeping in consideration the iddat or waiting period. This means that it is incorrect to divorce a wife in a manner that separates her instantaneously. In all instances, it must be given so that it becomes effective after a specific waiting period, which is called iddat. Iddat in religious parlance means the period in which a divorced or widowed lady cannot marry any other person. Since this period has been primarily fixed in order to ascertain whether a lady is pregnant or not, therefore, it is necessary that divorce be given after a lady has completed her menstrual cycle in that period of cleanliness in which the husband did not have any sexual intercourse with his wife. Every Muslim should be fearful of his Lord without emotions of anger, which on such instances do arise against the wife. Consequently, when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was told that Abdullah ibn Umar anhu had divorced his wife during her menstrual cycle, he was very annoyed and remarked, "Ask him to take her back and keep her in wedlock until she is through with her menstrual cycle, and then once again passes through this cycle and then is through with it. After this, he can either detain her in wedlock or divorce her without having sexual intercourse with her, because it is this beginning of the iddat, keeping regard of which the Almighty has directed believers to divorce their wives." Al-Bukhari, Al-Jami as-Sahih, page 938, hadith number 5251. The Almighty has directed Muslims to carefully keep count of the period of iddat. Since divorce is a matter of great consequences and a lot of legal issues arise for the man, the woman, their children, and their whole family, it is essential that the time and date of divorce be properly accounted for. Moreover, it is essential that at the time of divorce, the state of the woman, the date when the iddat commenced, and the date when it will end be kept track of. Whether the whole issue is ultimately settled within the family or has to be taken to court for settlement, in both cases, it is this period of iddat which dictates the time span within which a husband can revoke his decision and take back his wife. Similarly, it is this period which will determine the time for which the husband is liable to keep his wife in the house and provide for her. Likewise, the time when the inheritance is to be given to her and the time when the divorce process is complete and the lady is free to marry again shall be ascertained from the iddat. 2. Until the iddat period expires, the husband has the right to take back his wife. The Quranic words are, فَإِذَا بَلَغْنَا أَجَلَهُنَّ فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ فَارِقُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ. Thus, when they approach their term appointed, either take them back on equitable terms or part with them on equitable terms. Surah number 65, verse 2. Refer to this fact. The Almighty has further explained in Surah Baqarah that just as the right to give divorce rests with the husband, this right to take back the wife also rests with him, so that the Almighty has granted him one degree of superiority in status in administering the institution of family, which is necessary to maintain order in it. This, of course, does not mean that only husbands have rights and wives have none. People must be aware that just as wives have certain duties regarding their husbands, they also have some rights. Mankind has never been ignorant of these rights. It is well aware of them. Consequently, it is the obligation of the husbands that besides asking their wives to fulfill their obligations towards them, they must also keep in mind their rights. The Quran says, فَبُعُولَتُهُنَّ أَحَقُّ بِرَدِّهِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ إِنْ أَرَادُوا إِصْلَاحًا وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. And if their husbands wish to reform affairs, they, the husbands, have greater right to take them back in this waiting period, should they desire reconciliation. And just as according to society's norms, these women have obligations towards their husbands, they also have rights, although men as husbands have a status above women. This is the directive of God, and God is mighty and wise. Surah number 2, verse 228. Since there is a high probability that in such affairs one is bound to be governed by emotions and extreme reactions, and as a result may commit one blunder after another, these two attributes of God, mighty and wise, mentioned at the end of the verse, serve a special purpose. While referring to this purpose, Imam Amin Ahsan Islahi writes, God is Aziz or mighty, hence it is only His right to give this directive, and He is also Hakim or wise, hence whatever directive He gives is based on wisdom. Men should always submit to His directive without any hesitation whatsoever. If they oppose His directives, this would amount to challenging His honor and would only hasten to invite His wrath. Similarly, if they are naive enough to think that they are more wise and sagacious than the Almighty, they will be responsible for ruining the law and system of the society with their very own hands. Amin Ahsan Islahi, Tadabbur Quran, Volume 1, page 533. 3. If the husband does not take back his wife within the iddat period, then once this period expires, the relationship of wedlock will cease to exist. Consequently, the husband is directed to make up his mind once this period is approaching its end. He should decide if he has to revoke this decision and take her back, or is to persist with his decision and sever his relationship with her. In both cases, the Almighty has directed him to follow the ma'ruf, or good conventions of the society. The Almighty comforts husbands by saying that those who remain fearful of Him should rest assured that they will be worthy of His help if they encounter any difficulty. It is pointed out in Surah Baqarah that if the husband decides to revoke his decision and take back his wife, then this should not be with the intention of hurting or harassing her. The verse of Surah Baqarah quoted above refers to this aspect in the words, In aradu islaha. The revocation should not be to satisfy one's desire by tormenting the wife. In fact, the underlying reason for this revocation should be to lead a congenial marital life. Otherwise, this would just be an act of oppression which shall greatly displease the Almighty in the hereafter. The Quran says, وَإِذَا تَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَا أَجَلَهُنَّ فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ سَرِّحُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ وَلَا تُمْسِكُوهُنَّ ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ ظَلَمَ نَفْسَهُ وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا آيَاتِ اللَّهِ هُزُوًا وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَا أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ يَعِظُكُمْ بِهِ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And when you have divorced your wives and they have reached the end of their waiting period, either retain them with kindness or let them go with kindness. But do not retain them with the intention of harm, so that you commit excesses against them. And you should know that whoever does this wrongs his own soul, and do not make a mockery of God's commandments. Remember the favors He has bestowed upon you, and the law and the wisdom which He has revealed, of which He instructs you, and keep fearing God, and know that He has knowledge of all things. Surah number 2, verse 231. While explaining this verse, Imam Amin Ahsan Islahi writes, in the previous verses, the implied meanings were stated positively, but here they are stated negatively in order to caution cruel husbands who could abuse the right of divorce as well as the right to revoke it in the iddat period. Such an attitude, of course, is outright injustice and amounts to playing with the Shariah. Those who are bold enough to do this may think that they are oppressing their wives. However, in fact, they wrong their own selves. This is because those who toy with divine directives and exceed the limits set by the Almighty shall have to face a grievous punishment. In the end, a reminder is sounded regarding the blessings of the Almighty. He has made Muslims a chosen ummah and sent a prophet to them from among them to guide them. He has also blessed them with a book to guide them regarding good and evil. It is composed of the precepts of law and wisdom. If they repay this great favor by violating the limits of the Almighty and toying with His Shariah, then they should contemplate the consequences of such a behavior. The verse goes on to warn Muslims to remain fearful of the Almighty and to keep in mind that He has knowledge of all their deeds. In other words, He is granting respite to people in spite of their mischief. However, once He decides to catch them, no one will be able to run away from His grasp. Amin Hasan Islahi, Tadabbur Quran, Volume 1, page 539. Similarly, if a husband decides to part his ways with his wife, he is directed to do so in a befitting manner. The words used in Surah Baqarah are Tasrihum bi-ihsan. In this regard, the following directives have been given. Firstly, whatever amount of wealth, property, clothes, jewelry, and other items that have been gifted to the wife by the husband, they should not be confiscated by him. Here it should remain clear that the verse is not referring to nafaqah or maintenance and mahr or dower, which are the absolute rights of a wife, and confiscating them is unthinkable. What is emphasized is that a husband should not take back any gifts he may have given her.